Hi, and very welcome to this first video of our course Coaching Kids, How to Empower Children to Reach Their Potential. In this video I'm going to give you an introduction to coaching. Hopefully at the end of this video you'll be able to describe what coaching is, explain how coaching is linked to children's development, how it helps children develop, and reflect on the characteristics of effective coaching and ineffective coaching. So what is coaching exactly? Coaching is a process that empowers children to reach their potential. The two keywords of this definition are empowerment and potential. Empowerment is basically making a person feel powerful enough to tackle his own problems and to come up with his own solutions. So independence is very much key to empowerment. The Chinese proverb that says, feed a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach him how to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. That statement, that proverb, echoes the essence of empowerment. Potential is an ability that the child has that has not yet been manifested. So a child has a talent. He's able to do something, but at the moment he's not yet able to do it. So a good coach empowers a child and makes him feel independent by using a variety of tools and strategies and to reach his potential. He makes him feel empowered and confident and skilled enough to reach his own potential and to fulfill his goals. The psychologist Vygotsky has come up with a theory called the zone of proximate development. The zone of proximate is basically a zone that stands in between what a child can do on his own independently and what a child can do. In between those zones is the zone of proximate development. And a zone of proximate development is the zone that an adult can intervene in, or a child who masters a certain skill that the child doesn't master. He can intervene by helping the child to do something with a little help and master that skill so that in the future he's able to do it on his own. So that's the zone of proximate development. And that's the zone coaches are very much interested in. How can I help this child? How can I give him a certain guidance? How can I ask him certain questions, making him aware of certain things, as a result of which he will be able to solve his own problem and master independency and fulfill his potential. So you might wonder, what is the difference between teaching and coaching? Teaching and coaching really are two approaches that have a very fine line that distinguishes them. In reality, they usually overlap each other. But in my opinion, there are some key differences for both. Coaching is very much tailored to the child's individual needs and the child's individual goals. So a child articulates certain goals or verbalizes certain goals, and a coach is very much focused on specifically those goals. Yeah? And when a child asks the coach something, then the coach is not there to give the child an answer or a solution, but the coach is there to help the child to come up with his own solution. And this is very much different from a teacher. When a student asks a teacher a question, then usually the teacher gives the answer. But the coach is very much focused on long term, on self-mastery, if you like. Another difference is the fact that coaching is usually tailored to an individual, while teaching is usually tailored to a group. Yeah? And is usually based on a set curriculum, while coaching is based on the individual goals and needs of a specific individual child. So what is good coaching? Good coaching is coaching that makes a child feel aware of himself. It makes a child more self-aware, aware of his strengths, aware of his weaknesses, aware of his challenges, but as well aware of his opportunities. And besides that, it makes a child aware of how he can use his strengths to compensate his weaknesses and to use his opportunities to tackle his challenges. So it's not just making children self-aware, it's also making them aware of how to reach their specific goals. And in that process, coaches motivate children constantly. At the end of a good coaching process, children usually feel inspired and empowered to tackle their own issues, to tackle their own challenges, because they have been made aware of things that they haven't been aware of before the coaching started. This might be their own behavior, their own reactions, their own feelings. It might also be the problem in itself. They might understand their challenges and their problems better. So at the end of the coaching process, they feel inspired enough. They feel that they have enough inspiration to go on and to tackle their issues independently. Because as well, the coach talked to them in a certain way that stimulated their confidence. So they have a big confidence in themselves and they believe in themselves because the coach made them believe in themselves. The coach showed belief in them, so the children believe in themselves. And this is a very important point to take into consideration if you coach children yourself. Your confidence in them is very much influential of their confidence in themselves. And a good coach usually uses certain core ingredients. A good coach usually establishes rapport. Establishing rapport makes a child feel confident, comfortable, and safe in the coaching process. If you delve into the psychological literature and you read about psychological assessments, then usually the first step that's very important for psychologists to take is establishing rapport. And if a psychologist doesn't establish rapport and psychologically assesses a child, then the answers that the child gives and the results that the psychologist gets are less accurate and less valid because the child is under pressure. So the answers that he gives are not reflective of the answers that he could have given when he feels relaxed. Establishing rapport in the coaching process is very important because it makes a child feel open. Coaching is very much conversational. It's about the conversation that you have with the child. And it's about the child being open to talk about his own feelings, to talk about the challenges that he faces, and to talk about himself as well. The coach uses another strategy or ingredient to stimulate this rapport and to stimulate openness. He listens actively. Active listening can be described as listening to understand and talking to understand. So when a coach talks, he's not just talking to prove a point or to make a point. He's actually talking to understand the child better. So you hear him say things like I understand. You hear him say things like I see. You hear him ask questions to get a bigger picture. Like, could you elaborate on that? And you hear him summarize. Do I understand it correctly? And do I understand you correctly if I say that you find it difficult to do an exam if there are lots of people in the classroom? So he summarizes so that he shows that he understands the child, and also because he genuinely wants to understand the child. And this makes a child feel heard, and it makes him more open and more confident about himself, and makes him feel safe in the process. As a result of which, the coach gets much more information about the child's issues, and how he can help the child, and how the child can help himself to tackle those issues. So with the information the child gives him, this coach, the effective coach, makes a picture. And this picture doesn't come from himself. It's not that he's the expert and says, well, I know what the problem is, I know what the issues are, and I know what you should do to tackle your issues. Because this would be the point of empowerment that we've mentioned when we talked about the definition of coaching. We said it's about empowering a child to reach his potential. It's about making him feel independent. And you don't make a person feel independent if you give him the solutions, because then you're feeding him fish. And feed a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. You have to teach him how to fish so that he can feed himself for a lifetime. So this picture that the coach forms is based on the information that the child gives him. So what the coach does, he makes the picture and he feeds that back to the child. And if the child says, well, that's not really what it is, then the coach is not defensive and doesn't say, I know better, but he says, all right, so is it this way and that way? And they adjust the picture together, and when the picture is presented to the child really sees the picture and sees himself in that picture and understands himself better. So the coach has made him more self-aware, and that's a very core part of effective coaching. What is an ineffective coach? An ineffective coach is a coach that makes a child feel low. It's a coach that talks a lot and that sees himself as the expert and wants to solve things for other people. He doesn't want children to solve things for themselves. So as a result of which, he talks a lot, he doesn't listen, and doesn't make a child feel understood. So the child doesn't understand himself, and the child doesn't feel understood, and the child doesn't have any tools really that he believes in that will help him to tackle his own challenges. So at the end of the coaching process, the only thing that the child has gained is in confidence and defeat. I hope that you have gained a bit of understanding of coaching and the basic characteristics that make coaching effective and the basic characteristics that make coaching ineffective. I hope you join us in the next video when we will delve a bit more into the specific strategies that coaches use and learn a bit about how to use those tools inside of your coaching sessions.